don't want to talk about it before you. Hey, good morning, Facebook. It's Diane Bennett with RE/MAX 100 in Indiana and Inspired Homes in Michigan. And we have life-inspired guest Theresa Leyba today. And I know we're not on the red couch, and I know we're going early, but we're at Granger Community Church because they're having the Global Leadership Summit here at Granger Community Church today. And it's something that my team and I get to go to every single year. So we didn't want to miss it, and I didn't want to miss life-inspired stories. So we asked Theresa if she'd meet us here, and we're going a little bit early because I wanted to make sure I could tell you if you start hearing some speaking, this starts at 9:30. So we kind of started just a little bit early in case that gets too loud and you can't hear us. But for those of you that have never watched Life Inspired before, it's a series that we put out just basically talking about life was going along, there was a ... moment, kind of turning point in your life, and then you started following God, and now you live an inspired life. So for Theresa, she has a great story. Tell us about a particular turning point. I know that some people have all kinds of turning points, but there's one in particular. What was your life like before your ... moment?
Well, I guess the basis of my story starts when I was 4 years old. See, when I was 4 years old, my father, he was sentenced to prison. And see, that was just exactly when my family fell apart. They had no clue what to do. My mom, she fell apart. She didn't know what to do. She had 2 kids, didn't know how to take care of them on her own. Because, you know, you go from 2 incomes to 1 in the blink of an eye. You have no clue how to move forward. And so basically, growing up, it wasn't really... We had Christian values, but there was no Christian basis. There was no church. There was nothing like that. And so I had no clue who God was. No clue at all. Like, sure, I heard people talk about it at school sometimes. Oh, yeah, I go to Sunday school. I do all that stuff. I'm like, wow, that sounds great. Okay.
Don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Right.
And so I just, growing up, I had no clue who God was. I didn't know his love. I didn't know what he had to offer me. And so I remember it was my freshman year of high school. I had my best friend in the entire world, Ashley. And so she invited me to go to this thing with her. I had no clue what it was. She told me it was log, love of God. And I was like, okay, what is
log?
it? And
Right.
they can't tell you what it is. There's like, they say there's no secrets, there's only surprises. And I said, okay, sure. And she's like,
But it's basically a weekend retreat, right?
Yeah, and so
could she tell you that it's a weekend
retreat where we focus on God, learn more about God. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll learn something. I like learning. I'll do it. And I don't think she ever realized this, but at this point in my life, I had no clue who I was. I had no self-worth, no self-confidence, nothing at all. I was insecure. I was the typical teenage girl who had nothing. And I didn't believe that I could do anything on my own. And so I was like, okay, sure, I'll make some new friends, meet some new people. It'll work out in the end. And so we do this thing at the weekend, and right when I walked in there, there was dozens of people who had no clue who I was, never had met me before, and immediately they ran to me, and they came and hugged me, every single one of them in the room, every single person comes and hugs you.
And you're like, wait, I don't know you.
Comes and hugs you and tells you how much they love you, and I was like, I don't know who you are. Okay, sure. And I was very confused, obviously. And so
how can you love me if you don't know me?
I was like, whatever floats your guys' boats. And so then I remember Saturday night, the entire weekend, it's kind of like a roller coaster, we like to say. So like you're just going, you hit a high point, hit a low point, and all this stuff. And it was after a low point, we were going back up to another high point. And I remember we'd do this thing called vertical worship. And so,
okay, I'm gonna hold you. Can you guys still hear us? Okay, we're good. Do we need to lower this mic at all? Lower the mic. I better not lower that mic.
Oh, it's perfect.
We're good. Okay, sorry. Sorry, Facebook. Okay, so is Saturday night's a high point?
Yes.
Okay,
so it's
Saturday
supposed to be leading up to a high point. And I remember it's called vertical worship. So obviously you have the cross, you have your vertical and your horizontal. Horizontal worship is with others in community, like worshiping, praying with each other. And then vertical is on your own. That's where you go and you just spend time with God. And I remember I was like, spend time alone with God? I don't know what that means. And so I was like, okay, I'll just try it. I'll just do it, see what happens. And so I was sitting there just trying to pray, doing something that I obviously had never done before. Like, of course I've heard people pray. I've heard people pray, but I didn't know how to have that communication with God. I didn't know that there was an option to have that communication. And so I remember I was just sitting there praying, and then out of nowhere, I was just overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with such love that I had never really felt before. Like, I'm sure I had felt it. I just didn't recognize that it was God. and God that he was loving me and telling me that I am his child. I like to compare it to Peter in the Bible when he's talking. I remember Peter and Jesus calls Peter to him and he's in the boat in the storm. He says, Peter, come to me, walk on the water. And I felt like I was Peter, stepping out of that boat, leaving everything behind, the thoughts that I thought I had known about God, the thoughts that I had known about myself. I left everything behind in that boat. And then I was Peter falling into the water, begging Jesus to save me. Wow. And so that's
what a great story.
That's what I feel like I was in that moment in my life. Yeah.
So that's leading up to that was the turning point, was going to log.
Yes.
Right. So if those of you, if you're not hearing us well, it's LOG log, and it's a thing that's around Michiana. Yeah. If you want to find out about it, messages here. We'll get word to Teresa, and so you can find out about it.
It's the greatest thing.
But it's mostly for junior high school. It's just high school students. So it's a high school thing, a weekend retreat where people can find out about God's love. And is it just girls or girls and guys?
Girls and guys. Any high school, Michiana, anyone can, even if you're homeschooled, you don't even have to go to a public school.
Great.
Anyone can come. And it's seriously, I recommend it to everyone, every single high school student out there.
Very cool.
It was the greatest thing. It's the greatest thing of my high school career. And I'm still involved as a college student.
Very cool. So you turned from not knowing God at all, this transitional ... moment happened, and now you're following God and walking an inspired life, which is so exciting to see. And what does that mean? How do you stay inspired? How do you walk inspired? How does God impact your life daily now?
Yeah. Well, I of course attend church, United Presbyterian Church of Cassopolis with Ashley. And so,
hi, Ashley.
And so I do that. And at school, I'm involved with countless things to make sure I'm still involved with God. Because a lot of people, when they go to college, they kind of fall off and they kind of lose their way, lose their path. And so I make sure that I'm staying hyped up for Jesus. And I make sure I read my Bible and I pray. Because a lot of Christians, they think, oh, I don't have to read my Bible. Yeah, you do. So
why? Why do you have to read your Bible?
Because it's God's word right there for you. That's the most direct way that you're going to connect with Jesus in any way. And so I feel like that's most powerful, to hear what God has to say to you. Because sometimes I know a lot of people struggle with listening to God, and the easiest way to listen is just to read it and just to take it that way.
So I know for a lot of people, and even probably for me, reading the Bible at the beginning is kind of like eating your vegetables. Yeah. And if you don't like vegetables, you don't want to eat them.
Yeah, no.
But when you get used to eating them, you actually acquire a taste for them. And I love to eat vegetables today, and I love to read my Bible today. But I can't say that I always did.
Yeah.
So you have to just, you know what, I'm not getting a lot out of it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And the more you do it anyway, then now it starts to be like, oh, I can't get enough.
Yeah, you just have to make it fun. My big way is I like to take notes, and so I have my prayer journal that I write everything in, and I like to make them colored and do all this stuff to make sure that this is fun. I'm having a good time.
Yes.
It's not like I'm studying for school or anything. This is my free time to spend time alone with Jesus. And so
very cool. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what you just did this summer? Because you were serving others this summer.
So I worked with Group Mission Trips as a program leader, and so what that means is I was they call it the spiritual leader. It's a term. They wake up, I give a morning program, and that's kind of just like getting them ready for the day, talking about Jesus, focusing their minds and their hearts. We worship, we do all that good stuff, and then we send them out to their sites for about 6-7 hours. They're out serving, and that could be nursing homes, that could be, where else do we send them? The Ronald McDonald House is one of my favorite sites, Salvation Army, anywhere in the community. San Diego, we had a lot of homeless shelters that we sent them to, and there was this place called Sunshine Haven, which was the coolest place place in the entire world. It's like a life skills camp. And so the kids come and they learn how to like code computers. They learn how to sew.
You guys are in the Ball State area and you want to connect and have coffee with Theresa, I know she would do that. Message is here for that. If you want to have questions about the program that she did in California or about LOG, then message is here and we'll get you information. Thanks so